One of the biggest mistakes and failures of any president in all of American history was Joe Biden appointing Merrick Garland as Attorney General and keeping him on the job for the entire 4 years, long after it was obvious that he was going to do nothing to hold Donald Trump accountable. What we had in this country in January of 2021, when Joe Biden took office, was a situation in which just a week and a half, 2 weeks before, a president of the United States who had tried desperately to overturn the results of a legitimate election and who orchestrated a criminal conspiracy to try to overturn the results and to stay in power illegally after having lost the election. In a last-ditch effort, after all his court challenges and everything else failed, organized and incited a violent insurrection against his own government to overthrow the republic and essentially to impose a dictatorship, to put himself in power illegally against our laws and constitution. That happened. In the wake of that, the incoming president, Joe Biden's number one job, as far as I am concerned, was to make sure that something like that never happens again. And the most important thing to do to ensure that something like that never happens again is to hold the people responsible accountable. Chief among them, obviously, Donald Trump. For the future of the republic, there was nothing more important that Joe Biden could have done than to make sure that Donald Trump and the people, his co-conspirators, were held accountable. And yet it is obvious that that was not his objective. He just wanted to go back to to go back to politics as usual. That was the exact wrong approach. It was very clear that he and Merrick Garland did not want to pursue Donald Trump. The only reason Merrick Garland appointed a special prosecutor, Jack Smith, after nearly 2 years, it took him 2 years almost to appoint Jack Smith. And he only did so after the January 6th committee held public hearings and introduced all this evidence and produced all these witnesses detailing how Donald Trump was directly responsible for January 6th. It is what he intended, it is what he organized, and all the ways in which he tried to overthrow this republic. It was only after all of that was made public that Merrick Garland felt the political pressure to appoint Jack Smith. But by then it was too late. With only 2 years to go, trying to prosecute a former president with all the motions and appeals, claims of presidential immunity, all the appellate decisions that had to take place before the thing could ever get into trial. The fact that he waited 2 years meant that Donald Trump's case was never going to see the inside of a courtroom. And Joe Biden kept Merrick Garland on the job for the whole 4 years. It was clear that Merrick Garland's plan to not pursue Donald Trump was also Joe Biden's plan. This wasn't just Merrick Garland being a coward and Joe Biden trying to stay out of, stay away from telling him what to do. It wasn't that at all. And by the way, the President of the United States has every right to insist that the people responsible for January 6th are held accountable. You can do that without getting involved in the day-to-day prosecution of a case. The point is, Joe Biden, the buck stops with the president. Joe Biden appointed Merrick Garland. Joe Biden didn't order Merrick Garland to be aggressive in his pursuit of everyone responsible. Merrick Garland focused his attention on the low-level insurrectionists who stormed the Capitol, who shit in the hallway, who broke windows, who beat police officers. All that's important, and they all should have been prosecuted. But you don't have to do that instead of going after Trump and the higher-ups. You do that while you were going after Trump and the higher-ups. And I heard defenders of Joe Biden and Merrick Garland say at the time, well, you got to start with the people at the bottom and you work your way up, like you're prosecuting the mob. Well, if anybody actually understood what Donald Trump did, you would understand that that analogy is fucking insane. It's ridiculous. It's not like prosecuting the mob. When you go after the mob, you go after these low-level people. And these low-level people take orders from higher-ups. And those people take orders from the higher-ups. And up and up and up until you get to the, the head of the crime family, and you work your way up. The people who were there on January 6th didn't have any direct connection. Most of them, the overwhelming majority of them. Just your typical stupid-ass insurrectionist who watches Fox News and follows Trump on Twitter and came there because Trump summoned them. Those people have no direct connection to Donald Trump. They weren't there because they were part of Donald Trump's criminal conspiracy. They were there because he sent a tweet. So if you go after those people, how does that lead you to anyone higher up? If some jackass sees Trump's tweet and him and his buddies pack in the back of their pickup truck with their Confederate flag and they drive to Washington and they storm the Capitol, you prosecute that person. How is that person going to lead you to anyone else? How is that person going to lead you to any of Trump's inner circle? How is prosecuting any of those people going to lead you to Donald Trump? They won't, because there is no direct connection. It's not like prosecuting the mob. It was always a stupid excuse for Joe Biden and Merrick Garland doing nothing. The failure of Joe Biden to make sure that Donald Trump and his co-conspirators who were responsible for trying to overthrow our republic, his failure to hold them accountable is why we are where we are today. Donald Trump should be in prison right now, not president of the United States destroying this country. And there's only one reason he's not. Joe Biden.